Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2026-27 New Coordinator July webinar training from the California Department of Education. This is a high-level training, and it's designed to support you in your coordinator role. And we hope to share some key resources, provide some guidance, and also some best practices to help you succeed. That said, my name is Paul Valencia, and I'll be your producer. Today's webinar, we're going to focus on receiving scores. But before we jump into that, let's go over some housekeeping items. All participants are muted. And to submit questions, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom, not the chat. We only use the Q&A feature for this webinar. Also, a copy of the resource guide and the PowerPoint was emailed to you. And if you need the link, I'm going to go ahead and place it in the chat. And let me drop this in real quick. There you go. And you'll need to save your own copy to your Google Drive in order to make edits to it. All righty. Next up, today's session is being recorded, and a recording will be posted on the upcoming and on-demand training webpage of the CAASPP and ELPAC website. Give us about a week or so because we have to make video edits and make it accessible. All righty. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce today's expert panelists. We have Stephen Bartlett from Los Angeles County Office of Education and Joe Valero from Fresno Superintendent of Schools. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Let's talk about today's agenda. So today we're going to learn about the different data sources and where they live. Then we're going to start a conversation about sharing your data, talk about communicating your results, and then we're going to talk about the student score reports. You'll hear them referred to a lot of times as SSRs. And then you're going to get some answers to your questions. And so starting this off, let's talk about data sources, specifically the what, the where, the when. And so today you're going to notice that it's partly a presentation, but we're going to have a lot of live demos, really going over and showing where these live in a demo account. So first things first, let's talk about the data sources that live in the Test Operations Management System. You'll hear us refer to it a lot of the times as TOMS. So when you hear somebody say TOMS, we're really talking about, once again, the Test Operations Management System. And so some of the data files that are available to us as LEA CAASPP or LEA ELPAC coordinators, they're called the student score data files. And that is just the comprehensive report, just filled with all of the different data for CAASPP and ELPAC, the CAST, I'm saying the T, the science test, the CAAs for ELA, CAA for math, CAA for science, so on and so forth. You will find everything inside of those data files. And so those all live, once again, inside of TOMS under the Reports tab. And we're going to actually show a live demo how we access that. The ELPAC file, just getting a little specific with that one, it will have results for the summative ELPAC and the summative alternate ELPAC combined in there. So just like we were talking about earlier with the CAASPP files and all of the smarter balanced information and science information that lived in those, ELPAC also has multiple ones. They just live in those one data file. And you can download those either by tested, who we tested in our organization, or later on in the year, as kids are moving, kids are coming in, we can download those reports by who was enrolled. Even though we didn't test them, we would have access to those scores. So really great, helpful reports that we have in there. And you heard me mention there's going to be a live demonstration, and we're actually going to get to that right now. And so what we're going to show is how do you get these student score data files? Where do they live inside of TOMS? And so how do we get these really great reports? Well, let me leave this right now. And this probably looks familiar to a lot of you. When you log into TOMS, once again, the Test Operations Management System, us as LEA coordinators, we're going to have all these different options right here on this blue bar. And so what we're focusing on today, we're focusing on reports, specifically the student score data files. And so When I click on reports, notice it's going to give me, and here, let me zoom in a little for those of us that are a little older, like myself. There we go. You're going to have all of the different reports that are available to us, once again, as LEA CASP or LEA LPAC coordinators. You're going to have different reports that are available to us. So today, we're going to look for the student score data file. I can go over, I can scroll back and forth, or I can just simplify my search just a little more. Type in, whoops, that's not what I wanted. That was a habit right there. That was a test for everyone. So we actually want the student score data file. So if I just type in data, there we go. Gives me two options: CAA tested data report or the CASP student score data file. This data file right here, once again, that's going to give you the overall scores for every single one of your students. It's going to give you your scale scores, achievement levels. It's going to give you your genre that the students were assigned, if it's Smarter Balanced English Language Arts. It's going to give you just a really great wealth of information. So how did I get here? Remember, clicked on reports, and then I just filtered, I use data, and then here's our student score data file. This is usually the file that we would share with our student information system coordinator in our organization, so they can go over and get that in there. If you have a third-party software system where CASP scores, Smarter Balance scores, where they're visualized in there, this is usually the file that we are being asked to go over and import into that. It's called the CASP student score data file. So once again, I have the CASP student score data file, my organization. We're going to choose the year, 25-26. And remember, we have two types. We have by enrolled. Who do we have enrolled as of today? I may not have tested them, but I want the scores, or I can just get the who did we test. And so today I'm going to use by tested. And you click new report, and it's going to marinate in the background. So what does this look like through the magic? I actually downloaded this earlier today, and let me pull up what it would look like if it were done. And this is all fake data. There's no real student information, nothing. This is just a demo account. But what we're able to see is you'll see like a record type where it's saying a 1, a 6, a 2, and I'm going to get into that here in a few minutes. What does this actually mean? But you're going to have the SSID of the student, first name, last name. You'll see the grade that the students were when they were assessed. You'll see the district code, the district name, school name, so on and so forth. I believe there are over 300 columns in this report. What was the disability? If there was a disability for the student, were they CalPAD special education? Yes or no? Just whatever is in CalPADS, it's in here. And if I were to continue scrolling, eventually you would start seeing some scores popping up. Here we go, Lexile quantile measures, but just a ton of information. And you're probably asking yourself, oh my goodness, I have no idea what this means. And so we have a tool for you. If I want to get a better idea of what all these fields mean, I'm just minimizing this really quickly, and I'm going back to reports once again, and I'm going to go back to where I was, CASP student score data files. There is a really great report layout. So if I click on the CASP student score data file layout, it is going to give me a PDF of what do all of these fields mean. So let me just scroll just a little more, and you're eventually going to see, starting from, here we go. So column 1, what does that mean? Remember, we were looking and we saw, oh my gosh, I see a 0, 1, I see a 0, 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, all the way to 9. Here it is. It's telling us what we're looking at. So if you see a 0, 1 in the first field, that just means Smarter Balanced, English Language Arts. If I see a 2, it's math. A 0, 3, CAA, so on and so forth. So let's say I wanted to see Smarter Balanced English Language Arts. Here you go. Let me pull up this CASP one more time. Oh, I know that. Once again, here we go. 0, 1, that is Smarter Balanced ELA. filtering is going to be your best friend. So if you apply a filter, you can filter, just give me all my 0 1s. And now I can see all of my Smarter Balance scores. Maybe I just want to see 0 2. Those are all of our math scores. And you'll see it by student, and you'll get the achievement levels. Another thing you can look for in here, it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. This is just the way I use these. But inside of these really great student score data files, you can actually see what genre the student was assigned for Smarter Balanced English Language Arts on the performance task. Did they get informative, argumentative, narrative, opinion, whatever the genre is, we can actually see what each student earned. So, or excuse me, how they performed. And so how do I actually find though which column it is? Control find. I'm a PC person. I believe on a Mac it's going to be Command F. But me, once again, I'm PC, Control F. Look at that. And you can actually see I was playing around already. But if you just type in what you're looking for, now it's taking me immediately to, oh, so if you want to see what genre the student was assigned on the performance task on Smarter Balanced Summative, it's going to be column 153 or EW. And it's going to actually give you the what was assigned. And you can even see what do the different codes mean: argumentative, explanatory, informational, narrative, opinion, so on and so forth. So once again, control find is going to be your best friend on this, going over and trying to find out what these different codes mean. And all of it lives, once again, inside of TOMS. Right here, when I was looking up this CAASPP student score data file, and you can get the report layout right here. Just a ton of great information. That's just on the CAASPP end of the house. I can also find that on the ELPAC side of the house. Same thing. Once again, you have your blue bar. If you go to reports, and right now we're just looking at the student score data file, there are a ton of other super great reports. But if I type in data one more time, here we go. I get a couple of options. I can either get the initial ELPAC and the initial alternate ELPAC student score data file, or if it's the end of the year, summative ELPAC and summative alternate ELPAC student score data file. Choose your administration year one more time. You have your option, by enrolled or by tested. I'm just going to choose by tested. And when you download it and you're asking yourself, oh my gosh, have no idea what this really means, just go to the student score data file layouts. It doesn't matter how many years you've done this. We are always going back to this, just looking for the different codes. What do the different columns mean as we're looking at the different sets of data inside of it? So great wealth of information. But if you noticed this, it's all in just a spreadsheet form. We don't get the pretty visuals. We don't get graphs. We don't get colors. And so if you want that, we've got something else for you. That's where SIRS is going to be our best friend. These were things that were inside of TOMS, Test Operations Management System. Once again, student score data files. That's what most people are going to ask you for if you need to go and plug them into a third-party system. The other system we're going to use is SIRS, the California Educator Reporting System. And so before we get there, I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. I'm going to go back to the presentation. I just gave you a preview. That's all it was. Think of it like a Costco free sample, right? So go back. Sorry about that, everybody. There we go. SIRS, you heard me talking about SIRS. Once again, the California Educator Reporting System. This one also houses CAASPP and ELPAC data. Just keep in mind, initial ELPAC information is not inside of SIRS. It is more summative information and interim assessments that you'll find inside of there. Remember, we talked about, you know what, we just see spreadsheets when we're inside of TOMS, the Test Operations Management System. This is where we can start seeing some really, really pretty visuals, colorful. You're going to get some aggregate information. You can get it by school, you can get it by grade level, you can get it by student group. And this is already available for us. So we're going to get into some custom aggregate reports here in a few minutes. And just keep in mind, some of the information we're going to be seeing in here, it only lives in SIRS. An example of that is actually the target reports. Target reports are really helpful and they only live inside of SIRS. So you can't get them in TOMS and you can't get them in the website that we'll be looking at here in a few minutes, called the Test Results for California Assessments website. They only live here inside of SIRS. Access to SIRS is all based on the role that you have. So us as LEA coordinators, we have automatic access in there. We're going to be able to see everything. We don't need to go over and connect student groups to us in order to be able to see the information. But with that being said, just keep in mind, for the teachers at their role, we will need to go over and connect students through the rostering process so they can go over and see the information inside of SIRS. So if you want more information on it, we highly, highly encourage and recommend register for the upcoming SIRS trainings. Those are great trainings that happen throughout the year. And with that, I gave you that little teaser about we're going to go over and have a live demo. So let's get into that live demonstration. You heard me talking about aggregate reports. And so once again, I'm in SIRS. I'm not going to use the live SIRS environment. I'm going to use what we call the SIRS sandbox. And this is going to give us a view of what we're all able to see inside of the system. And so today we're just focusing on those, once again, high level aggregate reports. And so clicked in custom aggregate reports. And so the first one that we want to go over and just point out are we have yearly reports that we can go over and see for our district and our schools. So by default right now, the yearly report is chosen. And so we can actually scroll down. You would have to choose your name. This one I'm choosing sample district right now. Make sure, here's just a little trick right now. Make sure that the state results is not checked. If that's checked for you, you're going to get an error. It's not going to give you information until state data goes public on or before October 15th. So let's just make sure that's not checked. We're just going to see district results. And so when we click on district results, we can choose the subjects. We can choose English language arts, math, science, whatever assessments you want. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a guy. I can't handle too much information. So I actually just need to see one thing at a time. Whatever melts your butter, you can go over and choose as much as you want. I need mine to be simple. So I'm just going to choose English language arts right now. And it's going to ask what grade levels do you want to see? So I'm going to choose 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and 11th grade. Let's imagine I'm a K-12 district. So I'm going to choose all of those. Once again, just for the sake of simplicity right now, I do have the option to go over and look at race and ethnicity or English language acquisition status. I can do that. I like to do that later. Once I familiarize myself with some of these reports, I'm comfortable with them, then I can go and start getting a little more sophisticated with them. So right now, I'm just going to look at a high level, all student group approach. And then you're going to name whatever you want to name your report. You'll see mine are always either test or blah, 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 blah. So the reason why I do that is because I'm always just going back and then changing it to math, going back, changing it to science. So it really doesn't matter what I name it. But if you want to name it, totally fine. And here's our view. Look at that. We're going to be able to see in this fake imaginary district right here, how many students were tested, the test year, the grade level, and then the achievement comparison, average scale score, and then the distribution of the percentages across the different achievement levels. Easy peasy, already made for us. We don't have to go over and build those. This is already built for us inside of SIRS. If I wanted to go back and change it from ELA to math, remember, I honestly didn't care what I was naming it. You just go back to create new query, scroll down. Now I'm just going to change it to math. And then I'm going to click create report. I'm lazy. I don't like to go over and recreate these all over again. I just change these back and forth. And there we go. Now I have math. I can export it if I want. I can go over and move things around if that's not the view that I want them to be. But just gives us that quick view to go over and just see how we're performing overall. Now you heard me mention, I'm going to go back home. You heard me mention target reports earlier, and these are the only ones that live inside of this system. So I can change from yearly report to target report. And I'm once again still in the aggregate reports. And we were looking at ELA last time. Let's look at math. And let's imagine that, I don't know, we want to see it by fourth grade. So we're going to generate a target report. And this is the most granular information we can get for Smarter Balanced Summative, whether it's English language arts or math. And so math, fourth grade, give me a target report. Here we go. Let's call it test 14. Once again, we honestly don't care what we're calling it. Me personally, I don't. And here we go. Here's our target reports. And so you'll see the claim. So this is concepts and procedures, target A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. And you'll see how many students were tested, performance relative to the entire test, and then performance relative to proficient or level 3. Are they above? Are they near? Or are they below? And so super great information. You get these reports for groups of students of 30 or more. So as long as you have 30 or more, you get access to these really great reports. And they're just really helpful to go over. Maybe we had an initiative. Maybe we were really focused on using the 4 operations with whole numbers to solve problems. That helps with the interpretation of the data. Maybe we had a big initiative to it. And it could be on the flip side too. Maybe it's also one of these, yeah, you know what? We really didn't focus on solving problems involving measurement and conversion of measurement from larger unit to smaller unit. You know what? Maybe that's something we might need to focus on next year. So this is just simply giving us a direction so we can go over and plan out what we might need to go over and focus on for the upcoming school year. And these only live inside of SIRS, live within these aggregate reports. So we looked at yearly report, there's target reports, there's claim and domain reports that are really great for summative ELPAC. Just really great information inside of SIRS, all role-based. If you are an LEA coordinator, you had access to those reports inside of TOMS, the Test Operations Management System. You're going to automatically have access to these reports as an LEA coordinator inside of SIRS. These reports all have personally identifiable information when we're talking about SIRS, because you can actually get down to the student when we get to some of the other areas. When we're searching by school, we can actually see student level information. Saw student information in SIRS. We saw student information inside of TOMS, the Test Operations Management System. Now let's talk about a system where we're still able to access data, but we can't view the data by student. It's the public side. And I did it again. Sorry, everybody. Let me go to, here we go. The test results for California Assessment's website, or sometimes you'll hear people refer to it as the TRCA. So this website is different from SIRS and from TOMS because this is the public side. This is going to just show you aggregate level information, and it's going to show you information for students where we have 11 or more. And so it houses really the summative results. It's publicly available, no passwords are needed, and it's the only place where we can access claim level data for Smarter Balanced English Language Arts and Math for 30 or more students. So just like target reports in SIRS, 30 or more students, you get target reports. In the test results for California Assessment's website for 30 or more students, you get claim level data. The new information, the new test results, those will always be available annually on or before October 15th. So that'll be the really big date. So the assessments we administered in the spring of 25-26, they will be available publicly, once again, on or before October 15th. And a lot of us are familiar with this website, so we're just going to go over really quickly and show what this website gives us. And as soon as we're there, you're probably going over and saying, oh yeah, no, I've been here before. This is the public site. And remember, you have Smarter Balanced English Language Arts and Math. You have science information. You have the CAAs for math and ELA, alternate science, the ELPAC, and then Spanish reading and language arts. And so I'm going to flip this really quick, and I'm just going to go to ELPAC first because those results are available as well on or before October 15th. And so you can get initial ELPACs, summative ELPACs, you can get the alternates, and then we can go back to the CAASPP results as well. So let's just look really quickly. What do we get when we have summative results? You'll get your donut, and just remember, you can get more information on this website by clicking View Detailed Test Results. So if I click View Detailed Test Results, here we go. Now we can start seeing, and this is just for the state of California, how many students were enrolled, how many were tested, how many had scores, and you can see it by grade level. You'll see it like this for the district level. You'll see this for the school level, as long as, once again, you have 11 or more students. But you're also going to get the percentages of students, level 1, 2, 3, 4. You can get your composites. Those also live inside of SIRS. And you'll get domain information. Sometimes it's great to go over and log in just to look at domain information, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Maybe you're looking at your data and you're saying, oh my gosh, mine looks a little wacky. Is it along the lines of what everybody's doing? Are we out there on an island by ourselves? Are there people that might be doing it pretty well that we can reach out to and just ask those questions? Hey, how are you doing this? Just a great way to go over and start pointing us in a certain direction. Everything is public on this website, though. There's no student information. Once again, no login needed. And the biggest thing that I always say about this website is when you're searching for something, give it time to appear in the dropdown. So if I want to find information at the county level for us, Fresno County, if I type in Fresno, give it a couple seconds, notice it pops up on the dropdown. That's when I can click on it, give it a few seconds, and boom, there we go. Now we have ours. And if I click on View Detailed Test Results, it's going into our information. The other thing we wanted to point out on this website, we can get smarter balance scores. We can get all of that information as well. A lot of the times, there are some great additional resources. If you want to know what are the different scale score ranges for ELPAC, alternate ELPAC, it lives here. We can also go over, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go home to test results. There are some really great resources where you can actually see how many students were assigned designated supports and accommodations. This was a shocker for a few people a few years back where they asked, oh my gosh, you mean I can see by district, by school, how many students were assigned an abacus, or how many were assigned text to speech, you name it. It's public information. You won't be able to see it by student, but you'll be able to see by school how many were assigned. Um, so just some really great resources on the back end over here under additional resources. If you haven't had a chance to explore the test results for California Assessment's website, we would highly encourage it. There's just so much great information to go over and just pull, whether it's county, whether it's district, whether it's school. There are some really great, we'll show you super quick. If you want to go over and pull information for, here, let me actually do it this way. Fresno County, here we go. If I want all the information in here, but I want it as a file, I can actually go over and notice it already did it for me. Oh, you want countywide, district-wide files. I could choose a district if I want. And if I download it, it's going to download for me in an Excel format. So maybe I want to visualize it myself. Maybe I want to go over and see all the student groups in one spot, so I don't have to search back and forth. Just a really cool tool to be able to go over and use inside of this public website that's available to us. We just scratched the surface. This is 2% of the entire site. Think of this like Costco once again. We're just giving you the free sample to go over and make you want to buy the big bag of toilet paper or whatever it is. So just the beginning. And I'm going to go back to the presentation right now. And so we talked about the files that are available inside of Tom's, the files that are available inside of SIRS. And we saw what was available on the public facing side. And so what we're going to do is transition over to sharing your data. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
Thank you, Joe. That was great. I want the Costco sized data file there, the 202 megabyte statewide CAASPP data, so I can crash my Excel. Um, we are going to talk about sharing your data. We want to share a few key reminders. First, a reminder that at this time of year, results that you've already received for individual students are final. However, any aggregations are preliminary and might change. That's because California is still processing, validating, finalizing statewide CAASPP results. So district, school, and group totals may be updated before the official release. Second thing we want to remind you of, scores are going to continue to populate in both TOMS and SIRS as scoring is completed. And that's why those aggregations might change. Most of those are actually in the LEAs that we talk to and ourselves. We're right near the end of that. So you might see those final full-up files coming in soon. Before that data is public, you may share your preliminary aggregated data with your partners. In fact, you should be doing that. Your own data can be shared with your educational partners, including in public meetings with your local governing board. One caution, though, while it is important to not wait until October 15th to be in local planning, October 15th is that date when that site Joe last showed you is going to be populated. That test results for California website, California assessment website is going to be populated. You've got most of the data now here early in the summer after testing, and waiting until what would be around the end of the first quarter of the next academic year. Most secondary schools, that doesn't really make sense to use that for local planning. However, sharing incomplete data aggregations with certain audiences unnecessarily may create more problems than solutions. So you want to consider that when you're choosing your audience and choosing your presentation and how you qualify it. Your SIRS rosters will get automatically deleted during the annual rollover. So before the end of the school year, it's a good idea to ensure teachers access scores in SIRS before summer begins. Out towards that October 15th, you're going to have a chance to see statewide data in something called an embargoed release. And before that public release on October 15th, never share other organizations' results. So sharing your neighboring district's results or sharing a comparison district result prior to public release is what's prohibited. And you'll hear that referred to as the embargo. And that should happen. That embargo happens just before that October 15th release date of the public website. So you're using your internal estimates to guide instruction. You're using individual results to guide instruction, and you're waiting on the public release before you're comparing yourself. All right, let's move on to compare communication and sharing results. All right, we're going to talk about effective communication plans for identifying your key audiences. We talked about how that's important, what you're doing, what you're talking, or what you're considering releasing or talking about. And you're going to want to consider your local educational partners and work together with your teams, with your various departments or your various staff members. Hopefully it's not just all you to develop and implement a communication plan. Of course, it can't be all just you. How are you going to share those assessment results with your school sites, with teachers and administrators, with parents and guardians, with governing boards, with local media, if applicable, and also with other community members? All right, you'll deal with student level data and public data differently. Once your district decides who needs access to student level data, you're going to communicate with school sites, with teachers and administrators about that data availability. You're going to clarify how data is going to be shared in late May. You'll be the first to know when those results start flowing for summative assessments. And so you'll need to determine whether SIRS will be used by staff or if data is going to be loaded into a third-party system. If you're using SIRS, you're going to ensure that your teacher rosters are up to date, your SIRS rosters in SIRS, so that those teachers have access to it. Or if you're using a third-party system, you'll need to be sure systems are in place for importing and updating that data. For the public side, for the public data release, that October 15th release, you'll want to remind staff of the expected release dates for the aggregate statewide data. You're going to be sure to note that all aggregate results you've been using as estimates prior to that public release are clearly identified as preliminary. So there may be some notice that there's a slight difference between what you've been talking about for estimates and what comes out October 15th. Public release of data on October 15th means that we'll have greater data visibility earlier than in past years. So that date is earlier than past years, and that's going to allow us to have some better early insight. All right, student score reports. All right, let's start with the ground rules for CAASPP. All students who tested receive a student score report, an SSR. SSR is going to be generated, and the student will have a record in the LEA score file for any of these following assessments. For the Smarter Balance summative, that's either ELA or math or both. The CAAs for ELA and math. The California Science Test, the CAST. The CAAs for science. And the California Spanish Assessment, that optional assessment, the CSA. Students with a not tested due to medical emergency, NTE condition code, receive a student score report, and it reflects that they were not tested. It tells the parent that. Students who receive a parent guardian exemption for all CAASPP tests and who were not tested will not receive an SSR. Student score reports for the California alternate assessments for ELA, mathematics, and science, as well as the California Spanish assessment, are estimated to be available in late August, according to the SSR and reporting resources page on the CAASPP-ELPAC website. So you have already received SSRs for the Smarter Balance summative assessments in English language arts and literacy and mathematics, and the California Science Test for most of your students. The CAA and the CSA, the California, that optional Spanish assessment, those require additional scoring quality review processes before those results are finalized and completely released. All right, there are required timelines, 2 compliance timelines for distributing CAASPP student score reports that you have to follow for your LEA. If all SSRs are available in TOMS before the end of the school year, the LEA, must notify parents or guardians and make the reports available within 20 working days. If the school year ends before all SSRs are available, LEAs must provide any remaining SSRs within the first 20 working days of the next school year. Within those required distribution timelines, LEAs have flexibility in how they provide student score reports to families. Because CAASPP results are released in stages, LEAs may choose to distribute SSRs as they become available in TOMS, for example, by posting them to a parent portal or mailing printed reports rather than waiting until all assessment results have been released. LEAs may also wait until all SSRs have been received before distributing them. For printed reports, LEAs can either send reports as they become available or distribute all reports at once, depending on local processes and needs. So to support communication with families, CDE also provides a parent and guardian score reporting letter template. You can customize that, and a link to the templates is including your resource guide, and we're going to do a demo where we see a page where you can find some of those as well. All right, next, the ELPAC. We just talked about the CAASPP. There are different rules, different ground rules for the ELPAC. The ELPAC does not allow for parent guardian exemptions or medical emergency exemptions. So if a student has logged onto or completed at least one domain in each composite, they will receive an SSR, and the student will be included in the score file. In your resource guide, we have links to an ELPAC participation flyer that shows different scenarios of students logging into or not logging into the different domains so you can see what scores and participation they get. SSRs for the general summative ELPAC have been rolling in since May, and SSRs for the alternate ELPAC are anticipated to be available in August. Okay, those SSRs, the student score reports for the summative ELPAC and summative alternate ELPAC. What are the rules, the compliance deadlines for those? They're slightly different than the CAASPP. You must notify parents and guardians and make SSRs available within 30 calendar days of receipt in TOMS if you receive those before the end of the school year. And if you are no longer in session, you must make the SSRs available within the first 15 working days of the next school year. Regulations allow LEAs to wait until all SSRs are received before distributing them. Printed or electronic distribution is acceptable. You may release SSRs as they arrive or wait until they are all available. If you're distributing them electronically, you'll need to notify parents that SSRs are becoming available and where to look for them. Or your LEA can wait until all are received before releasing them in the parent and student portal. A great enhancement to both CAASPP and ELPAC student score reports is the availability of translated reports for your families. So students will receive an SSR in English and one in the student's primary language if that language is Spanish, Vietnamese, Filipino, Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, or Arabic. Changes can be made to the student's SSR language in TOMS. That is, you can update the SSR language preference for a student in TOMS to support families in accessing reports in a preferred supported language if it's not among those or if they do not have a primary language other than English. As site coordinators, it's important to consider how you will communicate the availability of SSRs and ensure families understand how they can access their students' results. The distribution of SSRs is different for each LEA based on your local context and practices. CDE provides those parent and guardian score reporting letter templates I mentioned that you can adapt to communicate assessment results and parent portal access information to families. The template link, of course, as I said, is in the resource guide. You want to be adapting those letters to fit your local context and ensuring that parents have information on how to access those. All right, let's do a demo. We're going to minimize this PowerPoint and pull up the SSR and Reporting Resources website. That's right here. But let's look at how you get there. If you go to the CAASPP-ELPAC website right here, and you're going to find the SSR and Reporting Resources page that we're on right here under Resources Reporting. All right, here we are. First things first is that timeline I've mentioned several times. You have those SSRs already released in late May. They're already rolling out for SBAC, for Smarter Balance. And here's that August date for the estimated release date for that test, for these two tests, and final release as well. So you expect in final release for each of those there. Also, there's information about what those SSRs look like, but there's a better place to see what they look like, and it's right here, sample SSRs. This is going to be really important this year because we've got the achievement level descriptors changed, and you'll have a lot of people asking for what those look like and help in understanding what those are going to, how they changed from last year. So here's an example student score report that pulls up just by a link there. This is one at a grade 5, which means they're going to have math, English, and they'll have science. This is a particular one that does not include alternate assessments. I believe those are identified here. CAAs are going to have it. And there are also examples that have CSAs. So what does that look like? Here's a sample of the CSA. Of course, if a student took the CSA, this, I believe, is going to show up at the very end of a series of pages. So you'll have ELA, the cover page, the ELA, the math, the writing performance, the writing extended response scores, Lexile Quantile, and then you'll have science, and then lastly you'll have CSA. So all part of that same document, I believe, if I understand it correctly. Um, I am going to go back to this guy and go to the next section. We are at the place where you're going to find guides. Guides for you in accessing those SSRs. These are guides on generating credentials for student information system vendors. That's what drives those SSRs into the parent portals. You have to pull those and then input it into your system here under credentialing. That credentialing will allow it to drive over to the parent portal. So instructions on how to get that working, how to navigate test results for California Assessment's website. That's what Joe just showed you last. And then you have some resources for your road shows, for your DLAC meetings, for your parents and guardians who ask, for your principals who are working with parents and guardians, for your um, coffee mornings with parents. All those are available for understanding those SSRs. And then, of course, I mentioned this several times, these templates. It's handy dandy. The same template is going to be written with those insertion points. You do not want to send this out without editing and modifying it because it'll be a little bit goofy. And each of these is duplicated in those supported languages, so it can ease the amount of work that your translation staff has to do. You just take this and drive that to your translation staff with your modifications. All right. Oh, with that, I do want to show you where you're going to access those SSRs through the reports. If you want to pull them down in order to print them all, and you'll have to look at your SIS instructions for seeing how you can see them in the parent portal or how you can see them in your system. Once that those the secret and key have been added to your credentialing, but there is a report here. And it's this CAS Student Score Report PDFs. Notice the most recent year is 25-26. That was last year, so you should be able to pull up SSRs for that year. If it is a future year that you haven't taken that summative yet, of course, there will not be any results. It doesn't allow you to put any spaces in the name for your report, but it kindly tells you that something's wrong. And you can choose all of your options and whether or not you want them, how you want them printed out. All right. With that, I am going to go on to the final slides here before we get to Q&A and to the close. So let me pull this up. I have hidden my presentation here. There it is. Okay, so of course, within that site, there's resources, there's materials available to help you add in and managing users one by one, videos for that, and by batch file, user roles. Be sure to download your coordinator checklists. Also great to download the checklist for positions that you oversee. Great way to manage timelines and expectations. I didn't show you where those were, but they're on the same CAASPP ELPAC website. You're gonna make sure you visit the coordinator how-to hub. So that has quick vignettes on each of the processes that you're going to need to do from a small, medium, large district. Great source for charters and large districts and all everything in between. So great source for that. And then you're gonna find all those resources on that CAASPP website. Also, there is a place to find out who your success agent is and how you contact them. They're going to be your best friend as you get into this work, as you hit roadblocks along the way. Okay, I do want to reiterate that you should be using assessment results now. So this year, the California School Dashboard and the statewide assessment results will both released by October 15th. Don't wait. Don't wait until October release of the statewide data. Use your local data. Data started becoming available in the tests in TOMS and SIRS as soon as results were validated by CDE, starting in mid to late May. And that's much sooner than October, of course. We recommend that you wait until a sufficient portion of your data is populated before beginning analysis to avoid drawing conclusions from an incomplete data set. But that's probably happened so far. All data is going to be available in TOMS and SIRS by August, with many LEAs receiving their full data set earlier than that. You're strongly encouraged to get your LEA started using local assessment data for planning as soon as those results are available. California educators with a TOMS account can access student level data in SIRS. If they are teachers, they'll need to be rostered. And you're going to be a primary source for driving that data use, as it's LEA coordinators that can access the student score data file on TOMS and drive that to systems outside SIRS, or get those teachers rostered as a site or LEA coordinator. All right, the early release of local data allows educators to review their summative assessment results far in advance of the public release. That means your teachers, your administrators have the ability to review data and start planning prior to the close of the school year. And that makes the data more actionable. As you begin data review and analysis earlier, consider sharing early insights with LEA leadership and instructional teams, holding planning and instructional discussions before the close of the school year, and leveraging local data to support students and program changes sooner. All right, I get to assign some oftentimes former teachers some homework here. The goal of that homework is to get you to take action on key priorities. Maybe some of your current teachers, maybe some of you came up from the classified side. First, locate your organization's communication plan. If there isn't one, you'll want to consider developing one. Next, familiarize yourself with the test results for California Assessment's website. This is where the public will go to access the public reports of your data. You'll need to lead your staff in explaining it and be able to explain it to the public. Finally, ensure teachers have access to the results in SIRS. If unsure how to do that, the SIRS trainings are a great place to start. In fact, I've seen Joe present at a couple of those. We'll now move on into Q&A. We have about like 2 or 3 minutes for that, but we'll start with the pre-submitted questions. I believe Moses has answered several of those in the answered column. So maybe I don't see any open questions currently. Maybe we'll read out some of those answers that are particularly poignant. You have one queued up, Joe?
No, just I've been answering some of the questions on the back end with there were questions about where can we access old recordings, trainings that happened maybe a couple of months ago. So we added that into the chat for everyone. If you weren't able to attend one of the previous trainings, please go on ahead, click on it. Everything is there, even the SIRS trainings that we were referencing earlier. So you want to go over and see a session on managing student groups, you can access it through there. The other question that came up was SIRS Essential Training Series. That the link to register for that for this year is in the chat as well. And I see Moses just came on right now. I'll let Moses take it away.
Oh, Joe, no, thank you so much. Absolutely, and I know I've shared this with a few of you in the Q&A. And I don't know, Joe, if we can share this link somewhere, but absolutely nothing more important for so many of these than for you to connect tomorrow with your success agent. They are there for all of these issues that you guys are asking about. The SIRS, I just know right now, a very complex issue is the um, SIS integration for everything from your SSRs, any of those issues. To my new friend, I think Jennifer, were you the one that said that you just started a new role as a new coordinator? Man, nobody more important than you all who are here today for me to say, please take a look at the link that we're going to drop somewhere. Yeah, that and please, I beg you, tomorrow, make sure you connect with your success agent by phone, by email, or chat. They are your lifeline on a daily basis to all of these issues and can walk you through any of these issues. Um, Shauna, that question you just asked Joe, I didn't see his answer. I'm sure whatever, but there again, if you need follow up to any of these answers that we've given you today, your lifeline for the entire year will be your success agent. So as it's showing on the screen, that's the website where you can just type in the name of your LEA and it'll bring up right there the phone number and email address of your success agent. Amy, you asked about, yep, the SIS integration and the cert and the credentials. Perfect topic for you to sit patiently with your success agent and they will walk you through every detail of that complex issue. Paul, Joe, and team, thank you so much for this opportunity.
One of the best things about a success agent is that they can get into the system and see its student level. So if you have a student level issue, they're the go-to. I am going to hand it over to Paul Valencia to close us out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Stephen and Moses. And thank you, everyone, for submitting those questions. We really appreciate it. Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and close it out. But before we do, we'd like to announce a few trainings that are coming up. And these are the new coordinator trainings. We have one in August, which is the assessment system and TOMS. And then in September, we have the accessibility one. And then October, we have practice tests, training tests, and interim assessments. Definitely don't want to miss those. Also, we have the new coordinator fall convenings. These are in person, they're free. And beginning August 31st through September 11th, we're going to be at 5 locations in person. So the trainers, Moses, everybody will be there to, connect with everyone, provide some information. So we hope to see you there. And you can register. The link to register is in the resource guide. Also, we have the AIM sessions, which is the Assessment and Accountability Information Meetings. And these are held virtually. And again, this is CDE now providing essential updates. Definitely don't want to miss that as well. And you can see a list of topics in your resource guide. Alrighty. And then we have the California Assessment Conference, also known as CAC. And it's going to be in Riverside, California at the Riverside Convention Center from October 27th through the 29th. And there is a link in there to register if you're interested. And then if you haven't already, we would like for you to sign up for the Assessment Spotlight emails, and you can find subscription instructions in your resource guide. And you could also follow CDE on X at CDE Assessments, and you can also connect with them on CDE on Instagram as well. So there's links in the resource guide. All righty, that's it. This is the end of our webinar, and we hope that you have found this information very helpful and timely. And just want to remind everyone that you're not alone in this work, and you've heard these experts here all talk about, connecting with success agents, just different resources, and just let you know that you're not alone. So you can always reach out to coordinators across the state, your success agents as well, and also CDE staff that they are available for support. That's it. On behalf of CDE and my colleagues here, We thank you for joining us and we hope to see you at the next webinar. Take good care, everyone. Have a great afternoon.